What happened
It's a question of when, because she's off tomorrow, and the other do a couple things, then she's actually I'll go there to New Hampshire for ice climbing.
Oh.
Well, there's no rush. Ice climbing.
Yeah, I know.
It's less than usual, usually they're 30 or
Okay.
and they're generally the same.
So I'm just curious if there's been any impact in the last few years, apparently or not.
I think the impact's been that it can take longer to get the regular tax money. People come through and it's just like.
Recording in progress.
Recording the mayor walking away. Oh, 2315.
Yes.
So when it comes up, I'll motion, I'll open for you. Oh, it's so quiet, it should be in the pulpit. Or maybe not.
Always when the cops show up, nobody wants to talk to you anymore.
No self-incrimination?
That's right. Either you guys are waiting to pounce on me.
That's right. Good evening, everybody. Let's get this meeting started. Welcome to the Town Council meeting for Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. I'd like to start the meeting by asking everybody to stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. So we'll just take a moment of silence, please. All right, very well, thank you all. So we will move on to number 2, the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 17, 2023. I'll look for a motion from the council, please.
Motion to adopt minutes of January 17, 2023 for the regular meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you all. Any questions or comments, council? Very well. Hearing none, the sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the regular meeting on January 17, 2023 as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The adoption of the minutes for the regular meeting on January 17, 2023 has passed. So let's move on to number 3, presentations, congratulations, and introductions. Catherine, if you would, please.
Yes, very good. And very quickly, on the Planning Partnership Initiative Program update, which is basically the Main Street project, We do have an item on the agenda that addresses the initiative grant in terms of a larger grant, which is excellent, a proposed scope of work, which has been approved by the Maine DOT, and then they've also sent a contract to the town this weekend, which met the DOT standards. This is all very formatted to follow all of the DOT requirements. So this is excellent. If approved this evening, we will set up the first meeting of the group as soon as possible with a schedule for the first meeting that will meet everybody's ability to come. Thank you.
All set?
Yes, thank
All right,
you.
Catherine, thank you very much. We will move on to public hearings, which there are none. We move on to number 5 in reports. Do we have council committee for the finance committee report?
Yeah, we're planning to meet the last weekend of February, last week of February
Okay.
is when we're going to meet.
Okay, very well. Ordinance committee? I see there's no recycling committee. Oh, there it is on the next one. Okay, that's changed out a little bit then, huh? Okay. So
Mike,
let's,
can I ask a
yes.
question? We have a Zoom link open, but there's no screen open.
Yeah, it's not off.
It's not up. Oh.
We
Yeah.
tried to work on it today.
Yes, the
Okay.
staff got the long cord and was all excited. I said, they'll set it up till after the meeting, but they did, and now it doesn't work. But we'll get it fixed. We'll have a few days to do that.
All right, so let's move on to 5B, board committee updates by town council's manager. Any reports on that, Catherine, please?
Yes, thank you. The planning board will hold a regular meeting next Monday, February 13th at 7 p.m. The topics will be the election of officers. They will have a freedom of access training, which is required now for the planning board. They will talk about the projects and items that they would like to accomplish in 2023 and any other items that come up.
Anything for Parks and Rec or recycling?
They had recently met back in January. I haven't heard of another meeting as of yet, but I'm sure they'll have one.
That was the Parks and Rec or recycling of both?
Parks and Rec.
Nothing on recycling.
Recycling committee will meet on Wednesday, February 15th, so coming right up, 2023, at 5:30 p.m. in the municipal building meeting room. Thank you.
5:30?
Yes.
February 15th, okay. All right, thank you. So let's move on to town manager's report, please, Catherine.
All right, very good. On the town manager's report, I'll try to be brief here. On number 2, we have all the materials drafted out for the abandoned building agreement, and some work has been done at the facility. Our code officer is out a little bit longer than expected upon his return, and he gets everything all settled. We will sign the letter and have all the dates assigned and everything and provide a copy to the council. Foreclosures. On number 4, we have 28 foreclosure notices for the 20 taxes that went out. We did get a few people to come in beforehand to pay things off, which we normally do. One had a small balance, so we didn't put that one on. They said that they would come in and take care of it, which they did. So that saved them some money. Since then, it's been very quiet. The foreclosures will be foreclosing on February 17th. Generally, everybody comes in on the last day. Number 5, Bar Harbor Bank and Trust, following Androscoggin Bank. They will be providing some revisions so that interest can be increased on our accounts, which is very good. We've had low interest for the last couple of years. I have a meeting with the bank on the community card program for the credit cards. So hopefully that will work out. That is on February 10th. Recruitment is listed, and fortunately, all of the positions in the police department, full-time positions, have been filled, and so the police chief can update you on that. I gave you some background. The full-time code enforcement officer position is being advertised. The administrative assistant position has been advertised, and part-time help in the office. That has never worked because there are no benefits involved. The police chief can also update you on the animal control officer position, but I did write down the recruitment process. He went through with the oral board and everything. And I believe the animal control officer will be starting shortly. For boards and committees, the town clerk has put together a list of people that she was able to get in contact with by last Wednesday. She's been in contact with more people. And she has provided an ad today that I'll send into the paper. And we've got notices up for the open positions. And so that's very good. Number 10 is very, very important. There is a new program for the Maine State Housing Authority, which came from COVID money, called the Maine Water Assistance Program. We had authorized submitting an application for this program back on 12/6 after we got all the information in. And that took a while to get approved, but I think that they were overwhelmed with the number of applications they got. So we got approved, and we're just told on Friday we will be receiving over $3,000 to help out, I think, 6 people on their water and sewer bills, so that is excellent. When we send out the water and sewer bills at the end of the month for the books that we'll be doing, we're going to put a handout in with the bills so that people can look that over. It is based upon income, so a certain percentage of the community would be eligible if they chose to go forward. Not everybody would be eligible. This is a one-time program, one-time application for people. The program will expire on 12/31/2023. And then I wrote down all the items that we've gone through on the water sewer accounts to make sure that everything is done correctly. And so we've gone through a process of elimination, and now we found that some of the meters are failing. Is the reader part of the meter. When we purchased these, they were to last an estimated to be 18 to 20 years. Everybody said 20, so I figured 18. But the little readers are having a problem at 12 years now, and that's what the new company is. The original company was purchased shortly after we went through our bid process, and there's been other companies involved. So they've indicated about 12 years. For roof repairs, I know we're still waiting for the pricing for the library cost. There was a permanent repair for the library in between the 2 buildings, and this is where there's been an issue before. The company did a very good job. The theater roof did start to leak. It's an issue that happens, we now understand, and the company understands that this happens when there's ice, heavy ice. So we have a temporary fix, which we were told could be a 3-month fix or a 3-year fix. And so we've been advised, and Donnie checks his email and mail every day to see if the prices have come in, but we've been told we get a quote for the permanent work that is to be done. But in the meantime, we were all excited. We got some quotes on some other buildings, and then we got a maintenance contract for the theater and the library, which perhaps the maintenance contract will take care of the permanent fix. And so that's a question that we have. Number 14 is the federal grant website registration. And so I thought I had plenty of time on this, but the airport committee has, and the airport through the FAA has been notified that we need to file right now because it's taking about 3 months to get through the process. We have certain registrations that we have to do for the federal grants. We have extensive monies coming into the town, so we have to make sure that we're up to date, so I will be working on that this week. Every year now they seem to change the process, and I've heard it's quite interesting, so we'll work on that. There are several programs that we have to get authorized in order to continue to receive all the federal money, and since we have millions of dollars coming in, this is extremely important. I've got the Maine Community Foundation grant application that I'll be working on, so when the librarian comes back, we can file that because she's done most of the work, and I have to fill in a few items, do a letter, and come up with some statistics. I did write down the mowing contract here, and I didn't write down the price that was quoted to me, but our mowing contractor has done an excellent job and has requested that we sign a 3-year contract. There would be a revision to mowing Hawthorne due to the additional work that was done there, and then small increases each year. So if we just want to bid things out, then we just need to decide to, well, always bid things out. I would say that they did an excellent job. I couldn't ask for a contractor that was so easy to work with, did a very good job. But if you do think that you should bid everything out, then we'll bid it out. And I don't want to quote what his price is, because that would then affect what other people might do.
So is there going to be a resolution on that, or we can just have
It's
some?
just a sort of a talk thing. I can put it on to bid the whole thing out at the next meeting if you want me to, or we could try to do a resolution to approve their prices. I just wouldn't want to put it on for formal action and then have the prices out there and then have other people see it and then outbid them, basically, because that wouldn't be fair.
It's brought up as a topic of discussion
What
because it was something that the town was approached with, looking for a 3-year contract.
Right.
And, so the town manager's saying, just something to think about, council. Maybe we can put on the next agenda as a resolution and, approve the 3-year contract or bid it out like we normally do.
Yeah, we don't have to do anything this
It's
evening.
just food for thought right now.
Right.
We can certainly do that. I mean, that's the option that we as a council can.
Right. So per the charter, we bid it out, but we're saying we might put it on there as a resolution
We can certainly consider that, yes.
Yeah, we can waive the bid policy. Generally, we waive the bid policy if it's the same price. And for many years, we would have the same price on items, but that doesn't happen anymore, as we all know. I have listed the Spirit of America programs. We want to start thinking about that. So if we'd like to participate this year, that is a celebration of volunteerism. It can be an individual that's done an amazing amount of volunteer work. It can be a group. It can be an agency or entity. So that's something to think about, that they are volunteers, and we have many in the community. There will be a celebration in April. We will want to take care of this in April because that is the National Volunteer Month, so that's the best time to celebrate the volunteers. And then if we did do this in April, the Spirit of America program always points out that the town will be recognized for the gold distinction category. So we get listed as sort of being at the top of the webpage with the citizen or group's name. I did also give you information on the TRIO program and the financial software that we have. And so you have a listing, which I did in bullets, which is this item that you have requested that we do. I had 2 staff members that wanted to do a write-up. 2 did not. And so I have statistics on the written tickets that we have submitted, and as we know, there's been ups and downs over the years with the financial software. There are 3 companies that you can go with for financial software that the state will recognize. And in order to participate in the motor vehicle, well, in pretty much every state program now, they're all centralized. We have to be on one of these 3 financial softwares. And so 2 are very expensive. One is a great software, Northern Data. Only the largest communities have that. I have used that before. It's very complicated, but it's exceptional. I can do any report you could ever ask for. Many years ago, 3 assessors got together in Bangor and created the TRIO program. And for many years, that worked very well. It started to expand its services and was purchased by another company, and then things did change. There always will be issues with the software. I would note, just for your overall information, that from when written tickets started up, which was 2018, you would submit a ticket through their website. This was something new that was set up rather than all the phone calling that we did. And so I have records of all my phone calls, but I don't have records of all the staff. And so they're busy at the counter. All of a sudden something doesn't work, so they call up and they just can't track their time. But from 2018 to 2021, we would average 27 to 46 tickets. So these would be items that were serious. We needed to get them taken care of. Or when you requested information, you were supposed to put it in writing through a ticket. So this was pretty standard. We got to the year 2022, and this is when the program base that we had was no longer supported by Microsoft, so it couldn't be supported by Trio. And so then we started to change over to a different software program. And we had 93 tickets, and that was a 102.2% increase in tickets. For 2023, we have to date 14 tickets. We had 15, but one was a duplicate. The one item that we do find is that they have hired more staff. They know their wait times are ridiculous. You get disconnected after 10 or 30 minutes, depending on how it's set up. I had an appointment on Friday, and they couldn't call out because their phones didn't work. And so this has happened several times. I know that they're overwhelmed. We try not to complain, but we are filing tickets on everything that's an issue. Some of the programs work better than others. The assessing was a big issue last year. The assessor got behind in all their towns because you couldn't do any personal property. And so that finally got fixed, and that was an item that delayed the tax bills a little bit. That got fixed, and assessing's working well now. The programs that we've had the most issues with have been the taxes as of recently. Normally that wasn't an issue. Financial has had issues. Cash receipting's been pretty good. And so this is an issue, and they have assigned somebody to the town rather than having us talk to 5 or 6 different people. They've assigned one person who seems to be picking up all our tickets and working on them. Some items are in, they call it QT, but it would be like a development stage, so they have to do fixes for them. They've been unable to do a fix for the tax issues, and so they told me not to go in and try to manually do this, but it's got to the point where I probably will try it on a couple of them, but I know that would be okay. And so I did the report that you requested. I was going to total up the different categories, but basically the taxes, budgetary, utility are the ones we've had the issues in. We've been weeding out the utility because it's not just Trio. We have Moeller for the reader, and then we had some other issues that were going on that were eliminated. So that has been much better. So this is where we're at. You talked about having Trio into a meeting. They don't usually do that, but if you wanted to have some counselors assigned to help the staff and I to meet with Trio, we've done that before. We've done Zoom sessions with them. We've met with the managers. We've had talked to the managers. We've gone to the Trio office. We've had Trio for a long period of time.
Share with the council what we spoke about earlier about towns like Fairfield, one not waiting because they hear all the issues.
Yeah, most of the towns were very interested in going over to the web, and then there were so many issues going on. We had to do something. We were told that we had to go over to the web of this SQ process, SQL, and the SQL platform was one that there was a lot of problems with. So after there was a big blow up of the towns regarding all the issues that went on with conversion, some of the towns did not go over. Fairfield did not go over. Skowhegan did not go over after they heard the stories. I did talk to several towns, and I've got comments from the towns. Most of them don't want the comments read, but one said I could read anything I wanted in his comments. But basically, some of the towns are waiting until the issues get resolved in this web version that we're on. Several towns were scheduled for their training, and that got canceled. I'm not sure why. And I think I've got to stop contacting the towns because after I sort of talked to them, 2 of them decided they didn't want to go to the web. So I don't want to be blamed for not moving people into a program they might want to purchase.
So essentially, the issues we're dealing with are a commonality amongst the other places that are trying to do the same thing. We're making a web-based Trio.
Yes. One item that's been mentioned to me is that we didn't go just from one process to the other or one platform. We went from the basic platform to the final platform. We didn't go to the middle one. They recommended that we go to the web, just go straight to the web because instead of doing 2 conversions, you do 1. That may have resulted in some of the issues. Yeah. So at this point, The items that are duplicates, they think they solved them and they're all happy and they close up the tickets and then they resurrect themselves later on. I put an asterisk there. There are a few things on the list. Those are just basic items. There's some things that we found out we did wrong. Somebody changed their password and then forgot what it was. So, there are some items that are not relevant on there, maybe 5 or 6.
Just a quick question. How much training have we had on this stuff? And are all the people that are currently working in the office, have they received that training? Or did we get a training, lose a couple people, and never get a training again for those people that are newly hired?
All but one person has had training.
And so they just have an initial training, and then you're kind of expected to take it from there?
Yes. Now, you can sign up for other training courses. I will say that there's not much on the web and version. There's a lot on the Access, that's what we had.
Right.
And you can watch the videos. There are also knowledge-based papers on Access. There's a few on SQL, but on the web there isn't much at all.
Right.
And in fact, I had to call up to get how to close out the end of the fiscal year, which was so simple. I was so excited. It never works right. You always have to keep redoing it, or it says it's going to be a half an hour. It's like 5 hours. So Emily and I would work on it, and eventually I did it because it took so long. And then this time it worked. It came across. You have successfully closed your end of your year, and then that's when everything broke loose because it was gone after that, and they had to restore our budgetary 7 times to get it in there. So there's not much on it because it's a new platform for them, even though they've had it for I think 1.5 years to 2 years.
I'm wondering if throwing money at it to get more training, or specifically know where we are having the most trouble, having them come and maybe assist in more training for that particular item, or
I'm wondering
or something like that.
If the training is the issue. It sounds like the program is just a mess.
Well,
It's just infested with bugs, and it's just not working right because, like I said, the web base has been 1.5 years available, and we're unfortunately one of the first ones to jump into it.
Well, other towns went to it, and some are having issues. You either have a lot of issues or you don't have many. And I'm trying to be careful in sending out information on the web. I don't want the company to get upset.
Is there training available that they offer as part of the contract? I mean, is it going to be at cost to us?
It's a cost. You would buy the training. I believe it's $100 or $200 for the courses for the day or for a half day.
Yeah.
It could be one of those things, if they're doing something a certain way and it breaks it, they don't even know that they're breaking it because of something they're doing.
It's something to consider. I'm sure their training probably separated into different modules like SQL or administrative or IT.
I can say the taxes is not a training issue. They understand that there's a problem.
They as in Trio.
As in Trio, yeah. It's been they thought they fixed it. It backfired and sort of tripled the problem. And so now it's been moved up to development to fix it.
In Trio.
Yes.
You mentioned Northern Data has a program, and Trio. What other company is there in Maine?
There's another company called Munis, M-U-N-I-S. Both Munis and Northern Data are very expensive. I don't know of many towns that have Munis. Northern Data is usually centralized down in the southern Maine area. I had it in my past town. It was complicated but excellent. Never had issues.
You gave us a report and you listed, the phone calls you're making, the amount of time that the employees are using to file tickets and everything else. That is lost time to serve the people of Pittsfield. And particularly you mentioned the number of hours that you put in to try to correct some of these issues, Catherine. And your time is not cheap, and, I would much rather see you serving the people of the town, in another capacity rather than trying to fix computer programs. In looking at that, is there a break-even point where we bite the bullet and say, is our service contract adequate to cover all the issues? Is Trio adequate to cover all the issues? For the time that we're spending doing this, how much different would it be to go to Northern Data or something else? There has to be a cost benefit to the employees working and being at the counter rather than being on the phone with Trio, or somebody to help them. In my former life, I basically reviewed a lot of electronic medical records, and there were some that were really easy, some that were more difficult. They may have been significant cost, differences, but the old adage, sometimes you get what you pay for, may be in play here. And what is the exact differences? We talking, $100,000, over the course of 5 years, from the perspective of, our employees doing the work and being at the counter and doing their job effectively and happily. I really question at what point do we say enough is enough?
No, I understand. It was not an issue until 2022, but we did need to change over to something. So I can look into that.
It's just, food for thought. I think it's worth looking at.
So, quick question, not to belabor this, I kind of like to get moving on here, about this Northern Data in Munis. They are service, there'd be like service contract, any issues, they would fix it?
It would be the-
What would they provide for us to help us with Trio?
They would, what would happen is we'd have a different software. So Northern Data is a program like Trio, but more advanced. And I think Munis is even more advanced than that. I haven't used that one. So those are separate, those are municipal government programs that are certified by the state of Maine so that we can do all the services.
Okay, you just answered my next question. I thought we were obligated to only Trio because that's what the state of Maine dictated.
They did, 80% of the state uses it, according to Trio, uses Trio.
Okay, that's certainly something worth looking into even between now and...
Well, even by looking into it, I'm sure the word will get out, maybe that would be helpful too.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't hurt. Yeah. Great.
Eric, I think Bill's hand up first. Go ahead.
Did we have a mitigation plan? I mean, do we have Plan B? Do we have? And we went into this conversion. I've been involved in software conversions, and I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What is the mitigation plan?
To get Trio to do the fixes that are necessary.
At what extent? Like to the doc's point, I think at what point do you say they can't? And when do we execute Plan B? Because having them fix their product isn't necessarily Plan B. Sometimes it's going to a Ford pickup instead of a Chevy, right? And what is the mitigation plan?
From what we've seen, I would say that if we can't get enough fixed so that we're comfortable, the mitigation plan would be in the 2024 budget.
Do we have options to get, if we have, I mean, it sounds like looking at this list of, how many items is over 85 items, more than that.
Yeah.
When does it warrant Trio to have someone here, report here every day to work through our fixes?
Yep.
Are we negotiating, are we leveraging ourselves, trying to show them that this is disrupting our business, and at some point, they need to pony up, right? We've already met some sort of financial obligation, which I don't know the exact dollar figure on that, and they were supposed to deliver a product that works. So do we have some meetings, some discussions about getting someone from their staff here that reports here every day and lives your life to see what they're going through, what we're going through, to help us fix the problem.
We could ask for that.
Well, I think we
Generally,
need
we're talking to them on the phone every day.
I think in conjunction with that, as Doc had mentioned, that's certainly worth looking into to have
I think it's
some kind of
ineffective.
solid plan B instead of hoping that they would fix it for us like they said they would.
the phone is ineffective at this point, right?
Yep.
We've proven that
Yeah.
through.
How long have some of the fixes been out there that they've been working on? Months?
One, the taxes has been since November of last year. The budget fix, the two budget fixes were November, and they thought they fixed them, but they didn't. But I noticed today that it worked, so they're able to go into our computers, and we don't know it. So I think they fixed something today that's been out there, which they've hired 2 new people, which seems very competent and very helpful, and assigned one of them to us, and probably to other towns too.
Sure.
So some of the fixes that they have work, and then they don't work later on when another version comes through. Every time you
When there
have
are
a-
fixes.
it gets updated, something will happen that, is not expected. And that's been typical of any software I've had.
So they have one point of contact personnel?
I have one person that's been picking up all our tickets,
Okay, good.
which is
I
good.
think looking at going to a different company, when you're this far in, right? I mean, the implementation alone, what was it, 20-something grand, I believe, for the implementation. I mean, obviously, there with any program, phone included, you get an upload to fix one problem, it creates another, right? So they send patches. That happens. We understand that. But at some point, there has to be, to Eric's point, if their only compensation to us is time on the phone, what pain are they feeling as far as that, right? So I think that was the spirit behind me asking you to pull this report together, right? Is so the next evolution of that is to start to put hours, associate hours that you and your team have actually invested in each one of those problems, and then we assign a value of those hours. And then we present them with this, hey, look, now we've gone greater than 12 months. It may not be the same issue, but it's a continuing rolling nuisance of the same types of issues. Here's the compensation we're seeking from. We're going to continue to work. We need additional fix, like you need to have a tech support here with us 3 days a week, whatever the case may be. But on top of that, some of that money needs to come back. And at this point, I think that that's kind of where we're at, right? That's kind of our plan B, I think, is we start to...
Right.
It needs to be elevated within Trio itself. If we have a point of contact, they haven't provided that before, we should be able to gain something from that. I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater because we need to ride this horse till it's not going to run anymore. We're obligated both ways, contractually, and we have the system in place. Plus, I don't think we've used all options on this. They're not feeling the heat. They're not feeling our pain. So the idea of having somebody here sitting down, I think if we start baring our teeth and insisting and have it elevated, if this person can do it, the department head does it, and we just pressure them. I know you've been doing it all along,
They have
but in
elevated.
conjunction, to Doc's point, we should consider for next year's budget maybe moving to something else, something a little bit more professional. Maybe they're going to be expensive, as you say. However, if we can put a dollar figure to the pain and suffering that this town and you personally and everyone else in this town has felt, the water bills and the taxes and everything not getting done properly, not getting the finances in, not getting the monies in and billed and having it in time. So there's loss of the money that the town should have. So you add all that up, it's probably well above what it would take to hire Northern Data or Munis. So that's something to consider.
That's interesting. I can do that on my time. I know the staff has had difficulty figuring out their time. 2 people have agreed on what it is, and then for 2 I've just assigned a value. I can do that, and that will probably get things going.
Yeah. Please do that if you would. I think it's going to be worth doing it. I'm enthused that Trio has finally given us a single point of contact instead of having you try to get service on your computer, you'll talk to somebody if you can understand them, you'll never get the same person twice. Ever.
I mean, it's kind of like, the old adage is a carrot on a stick. I say a carrot or a stick, right? So now it's time for the stick.
I did have a single,
That's kind of where we're at.
I did have a single point before, however, that person did leave the company. So then we've just had, a lot of turnover and
understood.
stuff.
Catherine, when did they finally assign us our own person to deal with all the tickets on a regular basis?
They just
That
hired
pretty
2
recent?
people, I would say 3 weeks ago, because they just hired the people. And that's when I started sending in a ticket on, every time it happened. I did this before, and I got results, so I started sending them in every time the item happened. They're getting all these tickets. Instead of getting 1 ticket for the 2002 taxes, the payment went to 2001, this crazy thing with interest. Or it went to 2002 or 2017. Instead of 1 ticket, I'd send them 7 tickets. And so they may have talked to me about how I'm not supposed to do that, but it did seem to get some action going there.
And are you able to put the tickets in and the other staff that, if they have an issue in water or sewer billing, she can either pick up the phone or she can put a ticket in for the issue? Or does it have to go through?
They can do the tickets. They usually don't. For sewer water, the financial clerk is pretty good about that. She's put some in. And some of the tickets, it may be 1 ticket, but it can be 12 or 13 conversations and everything. We don't add all our conversations. I will write at night and put in what's going on and the fix didn't work. And so I've got pretty good tracking. But I know it's difficult. They have limited time. I'm working when nobody's here, so I can, type up stuff and everything and say what's going on. But they've got customers in front of them. I will go out. I can fix some things without any problem. I had a system way back that was called Gemini, and that would malfunction all the time, and I just figured out how to fix it. It no longer exists, but I can figure out some things. But this tax thing, we can provide the customer with proper amount that is due. It just isn't in the right year in some of the accounts. And what I was told in the beginning is that, Catherine, you didn't do your conversion right the last time you did a conversion. Well, Trio did our conversion in 2003. So if there's an issue, why is it coming up now? It's coming up now because we converted over from one platform to the other. Because that's when it started. It didn't start back in 2000. Nothing happened from 2003 up to where we did our conversion last year. And then this issue popped up.
Between 2003 and our current version, were updates done regularly?
Yes. There haven't been many updates, but yes. In the beginning, though, we didn't, when they converted us over, we had, our screen and everything, but they didn't turn everything on, and so we didn't know that there were buttons that were supposed to work. So I think for the first 3 weeks we didn't do an update, and they said, well, look, do your updates. And we said, how do we do that? There's no button for it. There's no place we looked for it. Then we found out over time that some of the things weren't turned on, so they had to go in and fix that. But yes, the updates are done regularly. They're programmed so that they're done in the middle of the night, twice a week. They haven't had many, though.
Eric, one more thing. I really need to move on for this. This is certainly something we need to discuss further, but let's move on to other business here, Eric.
I think to help them feel the pain, I think there should be a topic every 2 weeks. It should have its own line item on the agenda, and I think they need to be here. I mean, if we're here talking about it, there's absolutely zero resolution here. If they're here and they can weigh in on these items, and we can find out, is it lack of training? Is it a bad conversion? Is it crappy software? But the only way you're going to do that is if we have all the same people in the room, and they need to be here representing them.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has several options to, that we have a point person elevated within their system, have them come here in the office and work with them, or in conjunction with that, have them sit here at this council and feel the real pain.
Yeah.
So let's move on. A couple quick questions, Catherine, before we move on to the first resolution. You had mentioned the CEO position. Any feedback from for that?
Even though I bought a really expensive ad in Johnson, Maine, which is really good, only one application so far.
Okay.
A nice gentleman, but not qualified.
Okay, no problem. How long advertised though before you had a response?
He applied before I put the ads in.
Okay, so how long has the ad been active?
It has been
Couple weeks.
active for, it's for 1 month. It runs out on the 16th.
Okay, all right, thank you. And just one more point I want to make before we move on. Number 4, the foreclosure, you had mentioned there are 28 for the 2020 taxes. Can you kind of put that in scale, the question I had asked you about that?
Yes, so we have approximately 1,283 tax bills. Generally, we have 32 to 33 foreclosure notices that go out. The last couple of years, it's been around 28 or 29, which is pretty good. It's generally mostly the same people. And one person has 3 foreclosure notices, one has 2, and that's pretty typical, so that's 5 of the 28. Generally, at the end, we'll have 0 until COVID, and we would have 2 or 3 that would foreclose.
Okay.
We do make additional phone calls. We do explain out what happens if it forecloses, because to buy it back, they got to pay all the years of taxes, and that's a lot of money. So they'll want to pay just the 2020, and you don't pay until next year.
Yeah, I just wanted to, make sure we all understood that 28 foreclosures, of course, we want none, but that's really not an abnormal number given the last couple of years. Real quick, we're going to move on.
Yep, so I just want to,
Quick.
because we haven't talked about it in quite a number of weeks. Back on point number 1, the Planned Partnership Initiative. As part of this planning, do we have an idea of 2 things? 1, timeline of when we're looking at implementation of a project. So I know originally they said 1 to 3 years was our timeline.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Could that be under the next resolution? Because that's what we're talking about.
Can be.
Yeah, let's take it up on that resolution
Okay.
real quick, so we get moving along. Okay.
Fine.
All right, thank you. So let's move on, Catherine. Number 7, new business. Let's start with resolution 2312, please.
Resolution 2312, resolved that the town council authorize the town manager to execute the Maine Department of Transportation, Maine DOT Planning Partnership Initiative Grant Agreement for a planning study to not exceed $91,200 with a 40% town matching share of $36,480, with such match to be paid for from the town's carried forward funds authorized last year and the economic development budget, with such action to approve the new grant agreement considered an action to replace the former grant agreement for $80,000, and furthermore to authorize the town manager to execute an agreement with a consultant chosen if required by the state of Maine.
And I'll look for a motion from council, please.
And we'll move you up to discussion on resolution 23-12.
Second.
All right, move to second. Thank you very much, council. You want to start, Craig?
Sure.
My apologies.
Yeah, no,
I think
no, it's all good. All good, absolutely. Just 2 questions. Is the timeline are we still somewhat on track for, because I know that the monies have to be spent by a certain date.
Yes, we're still on track. I know we tried to be really assertive and try to get this done during the budget process, but the negotiations took longer. We were busy,
Sure.
and the state was busy. So we now do have a really good agreement. They did increase the grant from $80,000 up to $91,200 after several discussions on meeting the state requirements. Some of the consultants sub-consultants that were listed in the proposal are not necessary, as the state has an agreement with the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments to do some of that planning and transportation work. And so that was able to save some money. The implementation date for everything to be completed by the consultant, unfortunately, it is a while, but it is next year, I believe in February. We might be able to go quicker, but they figured a year.
Okay, and if I recall from the initial meeting, it was the funds that we have was 10%. It's going to be a state match, and then a federal of 8 times what we had, correct? So what's the total dollar figure that we were looking at for this initiative?
All right, so that is for the overall federal monies that were coming
Sure.
later on, not this particular state grant. That has differed over the period of time depending on how the scope is set up and what we're trying to do.
Okay.
I understand that, many millions of dollars are available for the towns to compete for.
Okay.
But different figures have been thrown out anywhere from 1 million to 8 million. So until we get the scope and work with the consultant who will help us with the cost estimates, we're not going to know. It depends on what's included.
Okay, I just remembered that differently, and I wasn't sure how much of that was secured at this point if we had.
So we have over $2 million that's secured. The only monies that are an issue, you remember that I met with the Northern Border Regional Commission, and
Sure.
they came down and we went through what was going on and how expansive the project was. It wasn't just the little sidewalk that we asked for help with and the lights. So they loved that, and so we could get an extension, because they could see it's part of a bigger picture here, not
Sure.
just one little component. So that's fine, and the other grants are fine. Some we had to give back the money on for the little tree grants, and those are fine
Sure.
if I can get those. The one that is of concern is the Community Development Block Grant, which we got a number of years ago, and then a whole variety of things have happened with the state not having the money to go forward, and then now we've sort of delayed the process. So that is of concern, and we're going to have to work that out with help from a variety of people. I think it can be worked out. It may be, we may have to reapply for it.
So
That represents 200 and some odd
That's
thousand.
$250,000.
Thank you.
We have our
for this project.
Yeah, for this project, that was what the original sidewalk was supposed to be,
Right.
along with other grants I was
Right.
getting.
So this resolution is for the planning study to determine the scope.
Yes,
And the $2 million secured with potential more to be competitive with other municipalities. So we may be able to define further scope of this, that maybe there's other monies that we could secure for this. But we won't know until we approve this.
yeah, or we can leverage. So we have our scope, so that will then determine, working with a consultant, is that going to be the final scope? Are we going to just concentrate in a certain area? Are we going to concentrate on the whole area? They'll look at the whole thing that we put together, and then with the committee, determine, what the project really is going to be.
So what is the time frame for this from approval? Assuming we approve this tonight, when do we expect to see something that we can start chewing on?
All right, we're going to set up a meeting as soon as possible, but we want one that meets everybody's schedule, to get everybody on the committee able to come, along with the consultant and the state of Maine.
Right, but there's work that they would need to do behind our scenes. I mean, we're not going to be directly involved, but somebody from per this contract will start working on it.
Yes.
In conjunction, of course, with input from us, but they're,
Yeah.
okay.
So the first meeting will be within 2 or 3 weeks, depending on everybody's schedule.
Okay.
And then the project is supposed to be completed by next February.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then we get into the grant cycle.
Right.
And then we've got the Maine DOT, which we'll be working with to try to get them moving along, because they have to redo their historic preservation paperwork, although they already have it, so when it runs out, they have to redo that.
Understood. So I'm going to give back to the council. Anyone in the audience has any questions or comments on Resolution 2312? All right, very well. Open public comment. Council, any other questions or comments on this? You get everything all clear with yourself?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your patience, sir. All set? All right, very well. Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of Resolution 23-12, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, resolution 23-12 passes. Catherine, resolution 2313, please.
Resolution 2313, resolved that the town council authorize the town manager to execute a listing agreement with Allied Realty, Skowhegan for the Pittsfield Community Theater to continue the relationship with the brokers Heather Blodgett and Aaron Bolster with a listing price of blank.
So before we move on this, I need to share some information. I was contacted by a representative of an interested party, an entity, an investment group, if you will, that has ideas or plans for the theater. And I was concerned about hearing their information, having it open-ended, so, well, we can't hold off for number of months or even a year or more, and I was assured that a plan would be presented to the council within weeks. So I would ask this evening for consideration of that, if we could just table this resolution for this evening and set it to the next meeting, which I believe is March 7th. That should be sufficient time to get a response and have something presented to the council. So I would look for a motion from the council, please.
I move we table this resolution 23-13 for the time being until March, the first meeting in March, maybe.
Okay, certainly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Move to second. Any discussions on the tabling, council? Yes.
I would not vote in favor of tabling this again. I feel like the council's dragged its feet long enough, and you continue waiting and waiting to move something on this. I don't think that re-entering the advertising, the listing agreement, and lowering the price as previously recommended would affect any type of offer that might be coming. It might even create more interest for it. And I think it's in the best interest of the town that we continue doing that until there's actually something firm that's actually presented to the council. There's been a lot of hypothetical things around things that may or may not happen with the council or with the theater that's been presented to the council, and nothing ever comes of it. So I would be more in favor of actually acting on this tonight and not waiting for another month in order to do it.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on the tabling of this resolution? Very well. Anyone else, council? Questions, comments on the tabling? Very well. Hearing none, since ready to vote, all those in favor of tabling resolution 23-13, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Very well. So I will poll the council. We'll start with Councilor Hall.
Aye.
Councilor Saucier.
Aye.
Councilor Donahue.
Nay.
Dopp.
Aye.
Councilor Frost.
Nay.
Councilor Chester.
Aye.
And I will vote aye. So it's 5-2. That is majority. We shall table resolution 2313 till the first meeting in March. Thank you very much. Let's move on to resolution 23-14. And please, Catherine.
Resolution 23-14, resolved that the town council accept $2,492.50 from the Maine Forest Service for the State of Maine Volunteer Fire Assistance Program from the Maine Forest Service and authorize the town manager to execute the agreement and assurances for this program.
For a motion, council, please.
Move the discussion on resolution 23-14.
Second.
Moving second. Thank you very much. Any questions and comments from anyone in the audience? Council, any questions or comments on this?
That match just coming out of Bernard's budget.
Yes, that would be correct. It's a 50% match. Oh, I didn't say we're doing it yet.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Thank you.
So, Catherine, what exactly would this be used for?
Yes, there's a listing at the end of the documents, and
Okay.
I apologize. Bernard had to print out pages, he had trouble getting them out, so eventually I did get a few pages here.
Okay.
So,
I didn't see that.
it has 4 pages, 1 chainsaw, 15 hard hats, 15 goggles, 20 gloves, which at the time of the application last November would have cost $4,985. The grant is 50%, so he will receive $2,492.50 for the project.
Okay, excellent. Anything further from the council? Questions or comments?
I think this is the first time he got this, so that was really good.
All right, very well. Hearing none, I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Resolution 23-14, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Resolution 23-14 passes. Catherine, let's move on to Resolution 23-15, please.
Resolution 23-15, resolved that the town council approve the filing of an application of a Walmart community block grant of $5,000.
So look for a motion from the council, please.
So moved. That we adopt resolution 2315.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. So we have the chief is here. This will be something he is pursuing. So, Chief, if you'd like to give our Reader's Digest version, please.
Sure, I'll make it quick. I know we've had a lot of things talking about tonight. But so this community block grant, a lot of businesses have them, and a lot of people don't apply for them because they don't even know they exist. And they are tough to get into, but once you get into them, the money comes. And so I reached out to our local Walmart, which is Palmyra, I believe, and talked to that manager and then just asked him about it. And he says, and I let him know the reasoning for the grant, and the reasoning that I'm applying for this grant, just so you know, is for our active shooter response stuff that I had talked to Councilor Paul during my my interviews. That was one of the things about getting the equipment so we can properly do that. And that's not only for the officers, it's for the public as well, because some of this equipment will be used for a training of the public for a different type of response for them, which it was a program that I had started in Augusta. It was just for the public so they can understand how to go through an active shooter response.
So, Chief, could you define what you mean by public? Are we talking about the school system, town employees, or whatnot?
Well, when I first started the program, it was more so in line with the teachers. However, I expanded it to pretty much anybody in the state at the time. We had people coming from northern Maine and southern Maine to this training. It was just something we put out to everybody. The city officials saw our program in Augusta and decided that they wanted to make it mandatory for all the city departments to attend. Again, it's not something I can do here without getting the appropriate safety equipment, because you use ammunition guns which shoot like, I say paintballs, they're little projectiles with soap pellets. They can hurt, that's why you have to wear safety gear, and the safety gear is kind of expensive as well. It's $200 for one outfit for one person.
Any questions or comments? Anyone in the audience? Very well, council. Any questions for the chief? Very well. You're very efficient, chief. Thank you. So we're all set for the discussion. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 23-15, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Resolution 23-15 passes. Thank you, Chief, for your comments. Appreciate it. Catherine, let's move on to Resolution 23-16, please.
Resolution 23-16, resolved that the town council appoint Megan Hart as an interim director for the MSAD 53 Board of Directors to serve until the next general election and until a successor is elected and qualified.
I look for a motion from the council, please.
Move we accept resolution 23-16.
Second.
Moving and seconded. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Audience? Very well. Close the public input. Council, any questions or comments on this resolution?
Do we have a background sheet on this person? Usually we have some type of.
The name was given to us by the school. We didn't receive any background information. She had expressed interest to the school and they recommended her. She would serve until the November election and could run for that position.
So her name was given to us by way of the
MSC
Superintendent.
53 superintendent
okay, all right,
office.
very well.
I know several board members were good with it, well, happy with it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for
Do
that.
they vet people that they, I mean, I know at the town level, for our committees, we have like a little thing they have to fill out, like what do they want to do, what's their experiences? Do we know if they have a similar process that they do when they're recommending people for this? We just get a name.
I'm not sure that they do. I think it's so hard to fill these positions that generally the people that fill them are those that come to the meetings and express interest and then they get recommended.
Anything else, council? Heather, you all set?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very well. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 23-16, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Resolution 23-16 passes. Catherine, let's wrap up with resolution 23-17, please.
Resolution 23-17, resolved that the town council appoint members to fill the vacancies on the various town boards and committees.
For a motion, council, please.
Move that we adopt resolution 2317.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. We have, council has the sheet in their documentation package. So we're looking at all the people on this list.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay.
For Airport Committee, Board of Appeals, Board of Ethics, Board of Health, Economic Development Committee, Clean, Housing Rehab, Revolving Loan Fund, Parks and Recreation. And then since the list was put together last Wednesday for the filing date, more people have come forward, which will be on the next council.
Okay, very good. So, okay. So let's say the first one, the Airport Committee, 7 members. So this is only 1 member on the committee so far?
Yes, and there are a number of members on the committee.
Oh, there already are members. This is just people that we're adding to them?
Yes,
Okay.
for the vacancies.
Okay,
Is
very good.
is Mark a renewal? His name sounds familiar.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He's a renewal.
Yeah,
Yeah, these are all renewals.
these are renewals for the most
Yes.
part, as I checked with Nicole
Okay.
about this.
They're all renewals.
There are still openings on a lot of the committees, obviously.
Yes, it's very important. Board of Assessment Review, we've had great difficulty in getting anyone on that board. That is extremely important. The statutory boards are fine. We have enough members for all of those.
I see the Economic Development Committee team, like there's 5 people on that for 3-year terms, but the charter says that there would be 4 for 3 years and 3 for 2 years, and then every time they're up at that point, it would be a 3-year term. So there should never be more than 4 people up for a 3-year term at any given time. So one of these people is either filling a role of somebody else or can only serve, a smaller term. It wouldn't be for a full 3-year term.
Valid point. I'm wondering if we had the full complement last year, though. I mean, there may have been a seat that was empty. I don't
Probably
know.
not, but if you're filling a seat, that seat has a term.
Right,
That person would
understood.
only-
I mean, right. I mean,
Just like-
I guess as a minimum, we need to identify
Yeah, I don't.
which one of these people have the year term, so that at the end of 3 years, they're not changing them out wholesale.
Right.
Do we know that, Catherine?
Usually there's term expirations over on the side, but the town clerk was hurrying to get this in, so we don't have those.
They were, as of the latest list that I got from Nicole, is that all of the people listed were expiration date of 12/31/22. So they were obviously all renewed last time. As
So
a
that's
generic question,
In violation of the charter.
is,
So there,
have they ever met, or are there any committee reports, which are supposed to be created yearly, even if the committee doesn't meet, for all of these committees? Or are we just throwing the charter out, with the baby in the bathwater?
All right.
I already used that analogy, you have to use something different. So,
Give me a minute.
but, okay, but what I'd like to do, I think that warrants a follow-up discussion. I'm wondering if we can act upon this until we have identified on who on these committees have the year terms, or the 2-year or the 3-year terms.
So yes, you can act. One, I'll indicate that the council previously had noted that the Economic Development Committee team would not meet because they gave all of the tasks to the Pittsfield Economic Development Expansion Committee, so to peak. So this committee has not met for years. It used to meet and worked on certain projects, but the council gave those projects to peak to do. And so
What if the council wants to take them back?
That's fine.
Then
So it's been inactive. So you can assign any terms you'd like to the individuals.
Well, that's,
Yeah, I understand we probably can, but I guess the point made is that there are certain terms for certain people, because if all 5 of these people had their expiration date the same date, it doesn't follow, as Council Hall mentioned, the charter as, 4 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, and 1 1-year.
well, no, not
So
on this
let's
one, but.
fix it tonight
You
and
can
set
fix it.
terms for the 5 people that are on here.
Yep, I think we could, but I don't want, so are there, let's talk about the EDC right now. Are there other people on there now that aren't up for reassignment?
No.
Okay, so right now, the Economic Development Committee, we're looking at 5 people, that's it. There's no one else in the wings that doesn't have an
That
assignment.
would be correct. So you can assign the terms that you want. The terms that are listed are not in the town charter. They're in the administrative code.
Well, still,
Which is what we did.
let's call it the rule book, the ordinance. Something that dictates how these are to be run, and that's a valid point to be made, whether it's in charter or not, enforceability. The fact is, we have a way of doing this, and we should probably follow the rules. So I'm open to suggestions of how we want to sign Eric, I'm sorry, you did call it.
Do these people on this list know that they're being put up for a new term?
They all agreed to serve on the committee. I don't think that the town clerk will serve on the
I'm told.
So someone called. So someone called Bob Stackhouse and said, "Hey, we're putting you up for a re-election or however you want. It's not really an election, I guess. but
Reassignment.
Reassignment to this for another 3 years, 2 years, 1
She
year."
would have asked if you'd like to be on the Economic Development Committee team again.
So before we saw this tonight, they were asked for another term.
I don't think she went over the terms with them. I think
So
she asked.
before,
For another, if they wanted to serve another.
right.
Oh, yes, they
Yes.
all indicated, nobody would ever be put on the list if they
Okay, that was my
had
question.
said that they wanted to be on.
So everyone knows about this, and it's on
Yeah.
this list.
They
Okay.
just weren't said 2 years, 5 years, 3 years.
Right.
Yeah,
But there was no
that's what we need.
There was no discussion of 1, 2, or 3 years.
So,
So what does the EDC do? I hate to sound ignorant, but
It doesn't.
Apparently they don't meet.
Right.
Like
The
before
council
the-
voted years ago to have.
The council voted to table them.
It's in the charter still.
So Eric, this may be something that, when I'm hoping the next meeting I'll have some kind of outline that the council will start reviewing, as I we talked about sometime about reviewing the charter.
Yeah.
This is in the charter identified. We may find that we redefine the EDC and the peak and make it into one, or we'll just get rid of one and keep the other. That's going to be part of the review. When I started in 2008, we had people waiting in line to get on these committees, and it wasn't a problem. It was just a matter of who we're going to pick. So, not saying that expectations get changed or lowered because there's not enough people. It's just the fact of the matter is that we don't have the luxury of people knocking on doors like we used to.
So are you thinking of changing all the boards and committees or just?
No. Just the economic development, because that has the most people, and there are requirements for terms.
So if it's just that one, you might want to table that one, depending on what you're going to do.
Well, if we tabled that one, what are we going to gain by talking about the exact same thing next time? I mean, would the clerk contact all 5 people and say, look, do you want to be 4 or 2-year term? I mean, is that possible?
We can do that if you like.
I mean, is that, I know it's your suggestion. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, that'd be fine. I don't want to add any more to her plate, just making extra calls. Instead of us assigning it, maybe one of these people says, I really only wanted 1 year or 2 years.
Well, I think my concern would be if you're thinking of dissolving the committee.
No, that's not discussion. I'm saying the charter review, everything's open for the charter review. I'm not saying that we're thinking about dissolving this.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right,
not
then.
part of this discussion.
Okay, so then it doesn't matter whatever term you assign them, I would think would be fine. That's understandable.
I think you'd want to ask them how many years they want to do it for.
That's, it'd be easier that way. I mean, if it's not going to add any load to the clerk's day, would we have this, so what we could do is table this EDC, vote on the balance on this list, and if the clerk can come up with, assigned dates to these 5 people on the EDC for the next meeting,
That's fine, that's very easy.
will you have other people on the next meeting? You said there are
Yes.
other people on this list.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to have another list to review anyway.
You shall.
And we'll include this with dates.
Sure.
So could we have the term expiration for all the others put into?
Correct, yes, and it should.
I know she's very busy.
It
I
should
get
be
that.
on.
I mean, but it's a valid point. The question was raised, so it's something that we need to consider. So, council, all good with that? So, what the suggestion would be that we vote on all the other committees except the Economic Development Committee, and in the meantime, and we'll table that. In the meantime, we will ask the clerk between now and the next meeting, which is the 27th, later this month, to contact each of these 5 people and ask them, do they want a 3-year term or a 2-year term or a 1-year term? That is correct, right? 3, 2, and 1, or 4?
Whatever is listed in the.
4 threes, a 2, and a 1.
Yeah, there's 4 3s and then 3 2s.
4 threes and 3 twos.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have her check the.
Better than full house.
Can she verify that Bob Stackhouse on the Board of Ethics hasn't gone more than 2 consecutive terms? I assume she has,
Yes.
but
Okay. Are we all set with that, council? We ready to vote as stated? Any clarification required? Any questions?
I had a question
Yes.
about the Housing Rehabilitation Revolving Loan Fund Committee. We actually don't have a fund, so I'm not sure why we're asking people to sign up for a committee that there's no funds to actually lend.
Well, we do have a fund. It's a very difficult fund to apply for based upon the federal requirements. We've done a couple of loans while I'm here, but if they can go to the bank and get a loan, they can't qualify for the Housing Rehab Revolving Loan Fund. But we do have the funds.
Do we have a full complement of committee members by having Simone on there? Is the meeting with banking? The meeting?
No, there's not a full group.
She's the only member on the committee.
It's hard to have a full group, or even to have a group, if the committee only meets if there's an application.
Okay.
Because it's boring.
So if we get an application and then we would get a committee together.
Yes, or we can try to assemble one now. We used to be able to when you had tons of volunteers lining up, just as Michael had said, but since COVID, that is not the case.
And this may be something that we would want to review when we look at the charter.
As far as whether we participate, this is a federal program, you said?
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's optional whether we participate in it?
We have the funds for it. We did contact the federal government to see if we could use the monies for other items because we didn't have the applications. It was so hard to get approved based upon the requirements. And the fact that if you can go to the bank and get a loan, you can't get these funds. Generally, this is money that you would get when you're going to rehab a whole neighborhood, which is what happened, and this is the leftover funds. And we have had a few applications.
So when was the last time that was activated? Just last year, 10 years, ever?
5 years ago.
Okay. Is there anything else, council, for the vote? Okay, so the vote is for all items except for the Economic Development Committee. We will table that and follow up with information from the clerk for the next meeting. We all ready to vote? Very well. All those in favor of Resolution 2317 as noted, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Very well. 2317 passes as noted. Thank you all very much. Discussion items number 8, there are none. Let's move right on to reports. Audience. Anyone in the audience have anything they wish to discuss, bring up? Questions, comments? Mr. Lux, please, the floor is yours.
No, thanks, I have a floor, different color.
We can use it for the time being.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, Mike. First of all, it's kind of interesting because in the last couple of days on my cell phone, there have been different articles that have come up about the state of Maine right now. And one of the things that's coming up there is that there are certain sections of the state that are really suffering from population decline. And they identified towns that are growing, but then all of a sudden it kind of stops. And there's a line. And I'll go back to that in just a second. So the question I would have for you is, what is the population of Pittsfield?
4,000 plus or minus. Probably minus 3950, 4,000, 44,050, 4,100 plus or minus there.
For the census, it was lower than 4,000. However, with the boom that took place last year, almost every house was filled that had been vacant in 2020 when the census took place. So I think we're up over 4,000 now.
Okay, but I think if you take a look at this, at the government census, the guidelines, what really counts for that is anybody over the age of 16 and up. You only count those people for the government census 16 and up, which would put it somewhere, and I've seen the list somewhere, which would put it somewhere around 27 or 2,800, which means that the other numbers there are basically children, kids under the age of 16. It's really hard to grow a community when you've got those kinds of numbers that are floating around. And so I just kind of throw that out, but then on my next statement, if you take a look at what was reported in the paper today, that line of the fastest, if there's a section of Maine that's growing, it's from Waterville south. And, I think, in 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, we're going to have two states, North Maine and South Maine as a possibility. My point is that and Heather and I have talked about this a couple of years ago, I think, and that is, what are some things that we can use to get people to come into town? It's going to be kind of interesting because starting out in the next couple of weeks, going around with businesses, as far as I know, we are going to have a summer concert series, and that's the time that everybody shares their feelings with me about things that are working and not working. And so I'll probably come back with some thoughts about that. But, as a council, what do you see this town looking like 5 years from now or 10 years from now that you're doing today to help the area grow? The other thing is that it's not just here that there's Central Maine is kind of the forgotten part of Maine. There's a lot of press out there about Aroostook County, especially this time of the year with the snow. But Central Maine is it's not. So maybe one of the things that needs to happen is do more things on a regional basis. You know, and the idea about having the discussion that you had earlier about the computer system, you can't be the only ones that are struggling with that. So, you know, what are other places? But that's a minor point. What are you going to do? What can happen to get people to maybe move back into this area? And I'm going to use an example that I've used before. Some of you have heard it. And this goes back a while ago when I was on the planning board. I was walking the grounds of the SAS property, and there was a guy over there taking pictures. And I had my dog, and he was running around going crazy. So I walked over and I said, you know, what are you doing here? He said, well, there's somebody that might be interested in buying that building. Now, this was back a while ago. And he says, so forth. But he said, you know, what a gorgeous town you have. And he was from Biddeford, the Saco Biddeford area, and he was representing somebody that at that point in time was looking at that property. And he said, what are the high points? I mean, you've got a river, you've got mountains, you've got all kinds of things. Are you capitalizing on that? Are you using those kinds of things? And if you take a look at some of the communities that on TV, especially this last couple of days, now that people can get out in the snow and use their snowshoes and their skis, there's a lot of places that have paths and trails and a lot of outside activities. And maybe that's what we need to capitalize on. But is that part of your planning as well? So I just throw that out for a future thought.
All right, thank you, Jim. Anything else? Well said?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience?
Just want to,
Yep.
Mike, let everybody be aware that the next 2 or 3 nights, you'll see a lot of activity at night. From Main Street all the way up through. I've split my crews, public work crews. I've got half the crew working from 10 to 6. You can see a lot of the snow disappear over the next 2 or 3 nights, all the way up past MCI. So if you see the activity, just let people know. We're doing it at night for a reason, less traffic and less chance for any legal liability to the town. So we're going to be working diligently getting that out of the way. Second of all, I don't know if a lot of you got calls and stuff. I made this decision. I talked to Catherine Friday about the dangerous weather this weekend. Left it to my discretion on what I needed to do with the transfer station recycling center. Believe me, I heard it. I got more snotograms than I've probably gotten in the last 10 years because it was 47 degrees below zero in the hill. Machines broke down, they weren't running, nothing was running. My employees' vehicles wouldn't start in the morning. They made it noon time, so I want to commend them for putting in the time. And I've taken care of most of the complaints, I thought. I told them if they want to come up when it's 47 below and sit on the outhouse and go to the bathroom with no heat, it was dangerous. So I made that call. It had nothing to do with Catherine. I made that call. I tried to call her earlier. She wasn't in the office, so I figured that the phone. I did call a couple of radio stations, and I did put it out there on Facebook, on the fire department Facebook page, and my own. I just wanted to throw it out there. It wasn't a decision that was taken lightly. It was for the safety of my employees. So if you get thrown out there and people say that it's anybody's fault, it's mine. I can see workers' comp claims coming in for frostbite or hypothermia, so that probably wouldn't go over well either. So nothing was moving. The machines weren't moving. They weren't moving. It was pretty much a dead day.
So you made the right decision. You have nothing but support from the council.
No, and we haven't seen temperatures like that for a while. I remember about 9 years ago, we had 3 weeks in January that never hit zero, and that was probably one of the toughest 3 weeks I ever worked up there. So I know what it's like.
So just for the record, if I went there, my truck filled with trash and it was closed, I might give you a dirty look, but that's part of it.
I take those off.
Although I wouldn't have my truck full of trash going there that kind of way.
If you were, you're crazy and I. That's all I have.
All right, thanks. Anyone else in the audience? Very well. I'll close to public input. We'll start with the council. I will start with Deputy Mayor Margolski.
Okay, just a couple of points. In the past, you've included with the packet, the agenda packet for the councilors, department updates, and there weren't any this time, I noticed. So, you know, I mean, usually you get an update on what's going on the past month, and, you know, they weren't included. So if we can correct that for the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
I don't know what you mean.
It's a department.
It's department
That's the
reports.
second.
Yeah, those are on the second meeting of the month.
Okay,
Yes,
so they'll be coming.
yes, you'll get the whole package.
Okay. You know, while I was looking over the list of committee renewals and reappointments, you know, I noticed the lack of practically all of the spots on a lot of the committees, and I think it goes to that there's in general been a decrease over the course of time in volunteerism, and in a small town like ours, I think it's really important, and I think we need to you know, press upon the people in our town to let them know that we are all working really hard and diligently to try to give them the best service as possible. And I think it was in that vein that I think a lot of the suggestions were made regarding the IT issues in town currently. So, you know, all of us appreciate timely service. All of us who have had or been in business in one form or another appreciate, you know, taking care of people and being helped in a timely manner. So I think we need to work on that and show people that we really care. With respect to the population in town, you know, I understand that we are a small town, and if you look at the granted, you know, the 2020 census versus the 2010 census, we did drop about 300 people. You know, it went from about 4,200 to 3,900. And whether, you know, I can't say that in 2020 I noticed that many homes that were empty at that point. I think there's just been a turnover in people and population. So I think we need to look, you know, down the road, you know, for the next 5 years or 10 years, when we look at our plans for the future. What are people going to do to attract other businesses and housing in the area? And I know that the town doesn't have a lot of property of their own to build on, but you know, how can we be creative in pushing that agenda? And the only other thing I want to say is at the last meeting, I questioned whether the expanded role for the rec committee should be undertaken or looked at. I thought there was going to be a discussion this time. I'm wondering if we can put it on the agenda for next time, along with an invite to Ben Hall and anybody else on the rec committee to discuss, you know, potential options and how to expand the role of that committee. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Councilor Frost.
And everything.
What's that? All right, thank you, Brent. Councilor Chester.
Yeah, I'll start out by thanking Chief Morse for coming in, and Donnie, coming and speaking tonight. Catherine for putting her report together on Trio. I know that was quite a bit of time invested in that report, and more to come. But definitely appreciate it, right, in being able to put us in a good position to help. I think I'd like to answer a little bit to what Jan asked a minute ago, and it's kind of what I see as the council's role is that of any management structure. And the first thing that you do before advertising, I think, is remove the roadblocks to growth. And I think what we had here for many years And I think last year's council approved just how much a determined group of people can make changes for a positive. I think that as we continue to do that, and my hope is high for this year as well, that we're going to have a cohesive group doing that again. Making this town first and foremost an affordable place to live for more than just, a certain demographic of our state. I think that the advertising for the town is done a lot by word of mouth and by the buzz that's created by community events. But then when people come here to see the event and then look at median home prices, property tax, right, and different things like that, we have a lot of roadblocks still in our way. Chief Morris was talking about community events and being able to affect them through the community block grant that you're looking into, right, and being able to reach out to other communities and kind of show them, get people in here, which shows them more about what we have to offer. And I think those are the kinds of fresh ideas that we need here, and why I think strategic hires like Chief Morris were so valuable this year. But I think the biggest thing that we can continue to do here as a council, promote things like the Planned Partnership Initiative, being willing to look citizens in the face and say, yeah, it's going to take another year before your road gets finished, right? I get that, and I get it's frustrating, and that pothole is aggravating. But you know what? What's coming for you is going to be so much greater than that quick fix that we can put on it, right? And the same kind of thing for, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now, the same kind of thing to be said for, getting rid of a centerpiece of our downtown before any of this partnership is planned or developed or even thought up, right? And to use an old phrase, to step over dimes to save pennies, right? To get rid of a building that's yes costing us a little bit of money and may not look the greatest this moment, but how does that strategic sale fit into the overall concept and picture that we're trying to paint for our downtown, right? And to your point, to what that's going to bring into this town. To sell that to somebody for 20 grand that can't afford the 200 grand that's going to take to bring it back to the building it needs to be does us no good, because we can say we stand behind the planning board and we're not going to allow X, Y, Z business in there. But at some point, they're going to bring us 10 ideas, we're going to shoot them all down, and they're going to go, okay, your marquee can sit on your sidewalk then. For all I care, I now own a piece of your downtown and look across the street. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to let this become? So I think that the biggest piece that we can do as a council is to continue to remove those roadblocks, all the while supporting the ideas such as this partnership initiative to really develop the town. I think that's where we go from here. Just a thought, my answer for you anyway. So that's it.
All right, done. Thank you, Craig. Councilor Donahue.
Taking a kind of a step back, the mowing contract, I think it's a really good idea that we pursue that for 3 years for pricing, given the volatility of everything over the last 2 years. Being able to lock in pricing, especially when they're doing a great job. They're located right here in Pittsfield. That's one way we can build our community, is spending our dollars locally and keeping our tax dollars spent locally with local companies when we can. That's huge. That's how you can support your local companies and your local businesses. I commend Donnie for closing the transfer station. It is not the end of the world if you cannot take your trash to the dump. Having worked outside, farmers don't get a day off, so we were outside and we were working and it was cold. And that was after we did a whole lot of, 2 days of prep ahead of time. Extra feed, everything. Didn't even plan on starting a tractor. We just did everything we could as quick as we could and went inside and sat by the wood stove the rest of the day. But yeah, I commend you for putting the employee safety first. And, it probably should have just been closed to begin with and just said ahead of time we're not even going to try. But food for thought for next time. I certainly, anytime you have to make decisions like that for the employee's safety and preserve the equipment rather than trying to run it in the cold, I will wholeheartedly back you up for that. We shouldn't be asking people to work out in that kind of weather. Jan and I have talked a lot about, development of the town. We talked to Mike Gray about it, about, how can we get more families to come into town? The rec department has a lot of programs. They're all for young kids. That's not the only demographic that we can go for. It's like, this is a really nice place to retire. We have a very walkable downtown. It will probably be very much more walkable. We have some beautiful parks that people can enjoy. We have hospital services here. What we need is smaller housing, which is a big thing that I have. We have a lot of great big houses. People can't afford to heat those houses now. They don't have large families like they used to have. They don't need the 4 or 5 bedroom houses. People need smaller housing units and flexible housing units where you can have an in-law apartment, because there's a lot of blended families. There's a lot of extended families where multi-generational. I grew up in a multi-generational household. My husband did as well. And my house feels a little empty because it's just the 2 of us. I don't have my kids there. I don't have my parents there. It's kind of weird because that's not how I grew up. I grew up with my parents and my grandparents and my kids, and so did my husband. And that's the status quo for a lot of families right now, because younger kids, they're getting out of college, they can't afford to buy houses, and they can't find apartments, especially in central Maine. So having flexible housing and looking at our ordinances and know how can we have people, maybe we look at rezoning things so that people can have more, in-law additions or in-law apartments, whatever you want to call them. But those are some of the other things that Craig was talking about. It's like, it's not just about the downtown, what we can do in the downtown, and the PPI is going to kind of address how things look and feel and flow in the downtown, but it's the overall part of town that you need to change. You can't just tell people, come here, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, but then there's no houses for them to buy. That's not helpful. So it's like, how can we address that huge need right now? Because you're right, Jan, when you're talking about expansion. It's like, you look at the growth in Portland, and a lot of people have been pushed out of Portland because they can't afford the rents. And so the communities outside of those spaces, then they start to feel the push. And then outside there, they start to feel the push. And so Waterville has just gone through this huge transformation with their downtown and a huge expansion of Colby and the support that means. There's a ton of new businesses there. Hopefully our downtown project brings new businesses to us. We need buildings to put them into. We don't have a lot of buildable space in our downtown to be able to add buildings. But you have to be able to be prepared for that. As they grow, they're going to run out of space, and they're going to be people are going to be looking to go there and work, but stay in a more rural space than Waterville. So we can be that space for them, and so we need to think about not just getting people here with younger families and starting businesses, but people that are in retirement age, or people that are kind of like nearing that time. It's a huge demographic. The population is getting older. There's a lot more older people coming along that are going to be aging and need more housing and different housing near hospitals, near services, and we can provide that. So I'll just leave that there.
Mike, is she calling you old?
I'm sure that's not her intent.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
I'm sure. That was all set, Heather? All right, thank you. Councilor Saucia, please.
Yeah, I just want to thank Donnie for making the tough decision and owning it. I think a lot of times making a hard choice like that, and it's not going to be popular with the townspeople, and then sitting here tonight and saying that was my choice, I made it for the safety of my people, I appreciate that. People that often try to skate that responsibility and try to pin it onto someone else and sitting there and taking it, I appreciate that a lot. And to Chief, bringing stuff to town, that's awesome. Like, these are all super positive things. I think we have people that are active, they're engaged in making smart decisions. We have people trying to bring programs into town, trying to get grants to help fund that. That's awesome. having young kids in town, that makes me super excited. Having old people here makes me super excited. I mean, I think it takes a good mix of that population to make it work. And I think with the rec programs and the way that's going now, they have a foundation to build off that and mimic that structure into all ages, not just kids, right? And I think just to keep that initiative burning, just keep it going, keep people that are passionate about things need to get involved with things, right? I mean, if you're elderly and you're really passionate about working with kids, you should, right? If you're young and you're really passionate about working with the elderly, you should. And I think right now there's a group of people that have found and taken a hold of a certain population. I think that needs to happen. You know, make the scale larger, right? Broaden the horizons a little bit. But that means people need to volunteer, right? People need to get engaged. People need to have ideas and execute their own ideas, not just sit around talking about it, but actually move the pencil. It takes a little bit of effort, and it's not always easy, but I'm really excited about some things that are happening around here. As far as, you know, what brings people to Pittsfield, there's a lot of different things that I look to this town and say, okay, I want my kids to raise their family here. I'm not going to pin them down and say you have to, right? But I think there's some things going on here that I think will attract them in the future, especially if we execute the PPI properly and establish a downtown that actually has enough of a core to it that you can do several different things. And I'm using really broad terms, right? I'm not being specific because who knows what that vision ends up being. As long as we all agree that we need to grow this town to be healthy and sustainable, it requires a lot of different ideas and then executing a plan. You know, it's not any different than Trio. Like, I feel like we've talked about this and talked about it to nauseum. We just need to act. We need to do something. So sick of talking about it. And that can happen with a lot of things. It's easy to talk about and complain. Sometimes it's harder to move the pencil. I just think we need to keep pushing on things that are important to us. That's it.
All right, thank you, Eric. Councilor Hall.
Yeah, just a few things. You guys mentioned that Pete had taken over that EDC team and their responsibilities. So if they could provide the Economic Development Action Plan, I guess that's a yearly thing. I don't know if Pete is doing that, has done it, already has it. I don't know. I think you're up, Pete, so I don't know if that's readily available. I think it'd be helpful for when we get into the downtown project and all that. So if that is out there, that'd be great to have for the council and the downtown project team.
There is a plan.
There is, okay. And that was updated recently, maybe?
It should be updated each year, so
Okay.
we should meet this year and update it.
All right, that'd be great. I want to thank the police and animal control. There were skunk issues in District 2. I thought they were hibernated, but apparently they're not. So yeah, I appreciate removing that. I know there's a large group of people talking about it in District 2, and they are thankful that those issues are gone for the time being. Donnie and Public Works, thanks for removing all the snow and keeping those roads as clean and safe as possible. I know that's not easy in ice storms and every other kind of weather that we've had lately, so appreciate all that hard work. I was told that Pinnacle Fest is going on February 24th, which is like a Friday night. They're doing some kind of, I don't know what the heck they're doing, but it's the 24th of February, so people should go check that out. It's probably that weekend as well. But yeah, that's Pinnacle Fest. And thank you, Catherine, for all the Trio information. Look forward to digging into that and trying to figure out a resolution that is beneficial to everybody and make the job a little less
You
painful.
can look at any of the records you'd like.
Oh, I plan to. But no, that's great. I appreciate it. I know it's time consuming and a pain, but a resolution for that is necessary. And that's about it, I guess.
All right, thank you very much. I have just several things, very brief, I want to touch upon before we go into executive session. But Chief, I'm going to put you on the spot. A couple things we had talked about. If you want to give us just a quick brief bulletin board?
Sure. Yeah, sorry, I've got some business I'm working on right now. Had to leave a couple times, which I'll brief you guys on in a little bit. But, so I started a couple new programs. At least one is actually ongoing right now. That's the Buckets for Seniors program, in which we're partnering with Walpole Outdoors and Public Works, where we're getting seniors that request buckets of sand. They provided the buckets from Walpole. We're filling up sand and we're bringing it to their doors. Gotta get the word out. That's kind of difficult, in the town, because really our only venue to get that out right now is Facebook. I did go to some certain stores and put out flyers and everything else, but it's been received well, and I have an unlimited supply of buckets from Walpole. So if you guys know anybody, please push that program out.
Just have them contact you. Have them contact Amy.
Yes, yep. Right on the website, there's just the regular info, and we'll respond and we'll bring the bucket out. Sometimes the people that get the buckets aren't even the ones that want them. They were like, "Hey, my neighbor could use this," and I'm like, "Okay, this address," and dropping the bucket there with my card in it, and we're gone. So anyway, so that's a program, as well as the I'm starting. And it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do a car wash fundraiser in February. It's going to be at the end of February. It's actually right around the Pinnacle. It's going to be probably the 25th. I'm partnering with the local car wash place, the business owner, and Varney's. And we're going to be doing donations. We'll be washing the cars. It's actually not that bad, and they're doing it. But we'll be washing the cars, the police officers, and whoever else is going to volunteer with us. And the proceeds are going to go to the heating fund that the city has, or the town has.
Yes, thank you so much. I used it all up.
Yeah, for the seniors. So I definitely don't want for you to talk about the population of the seniors. They're a huge part of our population, and we got to make sure we support them, and they're the ones that aren't going to ask for help. So we got to do what we can to help them out. So, and I got a bunch of other programs which we're ready at 8:15, so we're coming in that there and keep it a secret and let you guys know about those later.
Thank you, Chief. What day was that car wash on?
It's going to be the 25th right now.
25th. Pencil me in. Maybe we can get some of the other councilors to volunteer.
Perfect.
Notification. Medical emergency. The 7th of February.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. So just a couple of quick things before we go into executive session. Heather, you brought up the mowing contract. I think it's a great idea. I agree with you as a matter of fact, because we've had several entities where they've been given a very good service and excellent price all along. It's a very good suggestion. And as you mentioned, it enforces having a local town. It's a town thing. It works well for the town. So I think this is very serious consideration. I agree with you on that. So thank you for bringing that up. With the rec department, I know we had discussion. Actually, one thing that got brought forward to my mind is that Jan, his wife, had worked some years now getting the summer concert series going. I considered, let's consider expanding the rec director of the rec department and have that part of it. So we're talking about the demographic of the children. The rec department, think about the soccer program, softball, everything for the kids. I mean, why not consider the older population? That would be one. We can coordinate with the school system, the Delta Ed. I don't know how robust that is. Why couldn't it be basket weaving or something? I don't know. It's just a thought, something to think about. Kind of have it, the Adult Ed has been a separate entity, the rec department has been a separate entity. Let's start using our own, to go with the segue with what Heather has said about we have our resources in town. Let's use our own resources in town and kind of get together and stop considering that. We're this and we're that. Let's work together. Why not? I just want to put that up, food for thought. One last thing, and I hate to be the bad guy here, but and I am just as guilty of it as anyone. So if you hear from Catherine or anyone that there wants to be signed, please make it a point, come in here just as soon as you can. I know we're all very, very busy. We have things to do. I was the last one. It was the last bout. So I will, be the first one to hoist myself my own petard. So that's all I have this evening. Thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate the input. Chief, thank you for your time. And I want to mention to Donnie and, for taking care of making the right decision, taking care of the guys down there. It's not the best place to work, so greatly appreciate it.
That's why he gets coffee.
So with that, I will look for a motion from the council to move into executive session, please.
I think we make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We are in executive session. Thank you all very much. This goes. Will be brief. Very appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in. I don't know if that thing I'm here to talk
That's ridiculous. That's Eileen and Robert. Is that come with the driver? Or are they parking a driver?